Hi, I'm Ben Ferguson, and welcome to your AMAC Weekly News. First up, conservatives in Congress have had enough, and they're standing up to Speaker Nancy Pelosi against her ridiculous proxy voting system that she has put into place. Well, now they've had to literally file a lawsuit against her. I'll tell you more about that in just a moment. Up next, Joe Biden is being protected by the mainstream media following his extremely racist comments, even though he flat out said that you, quote, aren't really black if you vote for President Trump. They've already decided to cover it up for him. I'll tell you more about that in just a moment. And finally, a massive victory for AMAC members. AMAC was at the White House this week as the president put out a huge new directive that dealt with Medicare Part D. And it could save you an incredible amount of money and give you a life-saving drug. More on that in just a moment. But first, a quick reminder. Make sure you share this video with your friends on social media right now. Your AMAC Weekly News starts right now. Conservatives in the House have had enough of the liberal agenda of Nancy Pelosi. The last strike came when Speaker Pelosi and her cronies put forth and passed the chamber's new proxy voting system amid the coronavirus pandemic. Now, what does this rule actually do? Well, this historic rule allows Pelosi to initiate remote operations for 45 days and for House members to direct another member of Congress to vote on their behalf if they, quote, can't make it to the Capitol. Now, literally, no Republicans voted in favor of this temporary remote voting system. House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy is saying that the rules are clearly unconstitutional because the Constitution actually requires a quorum or a majority of lawmakers to be physically present in order to conduct business in the nation's capital. Now, this is breaking over 230 years of precedent. Now, before this passed in the House, McCarthy fought it hard on the floor. Take a look at what he had to say, as he was clearly frustrated with the trashing of the Constitution by Speaker Nancy Pelosi.
Mr. Speaker, Speaker Pelosi said in this exact chamber just a few weeks ago, and I quote, "We are captains of the ship. We are the last to leave." But proxy voting calls on Congress to abandon the ship and be the first to leave for months or possibly for the rest of the session. The Speaker is on the brink of launching the most significant power grab in the history of Congress. It runs counters to 230 years of House rules and even the Constitution. Mr. Speaker, our founders would be ashamed that we aren't assembling. I want every American to understand what it means for their members of Congress, to whom they lend their voice in Washington. It means that you can stay home for the rest of the year, but still get paid for the rest of the year, where many Americans will not be paid. It means that they can let someone else, Speaker Pelosi, consolidate power and do their job for them when they could do it for themselves. And it means that they will only participate in legislative theater while shutting your voice out for the real lawmaking process.
Now, if Americans have to go to work in order to get paid, well, then the people who are supposed to be representing them should have to do the exact same thing. In fact, they've been paid, I'm referring to Congress, throughout all of this, while many Americans have suffered job losses, pay losses, and hardship. Now, GOP leadership aides said they don't expect the lawsuit to be able to stop the proxy voting that is happening this week, but they hope they can see it change very soon. Now, already, 54 Democratic members have sent a letter designating another member of Congress to vote on their behalf this week. At the same time, not a single Republican has done so. Another Republican leadership aide also said this: "We believe the majority rule is unconstitutional, and so the remedy there is for us is to go to court and ask for them to confirm our reading of the Constitution, and that will take a little bit of time." Now, liberals are destroying our Constitution piece by piece, and it's clearly our job to put an end to this. Our founders would roll over in their graves if they heard what is taking place. But there is a way for us to make our voices heard. And that is exactly why AMAC is fighting so hard right now to make sure that the members of Congress do their job and abide by the constitutional rules. There's also something else that we can do to fight back against what the left has just done. This is literally allowing members of Congress to go on vacation and actually vote while they're sitting on the beach. Now, how can you hold them accountable? Well, the best way to do it is by voting in the voting booth in November. Joe Biden is backtracking on remarks he made on a popular African-American radio program on Friday that were criticized as questioning the cultural authenticity of African-American supporters of President Donald Trump. Now, I want you to hear this directly from Joe Biden's mouth. Take a look at what he had to say in this interview from The Breakfast Club.
Listen, you got to come see us when you come to New York, VP Biden.
I will.
It's a long way until November. We got more questions.
You got more questions, but I tell you, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, then you ain't black.
It don't have nothing to do with Trump. It has to do with the fact I want something for my community.
Now imagine if any conservative would have said what Joe Biden just said. You would have the mainstream media come out and attack them, saying they must drop out of the race because they're clearly a racist and these are racist comments. Now, I will say some in the mainstream media actually started to criticize Biden right away after this happened. Now, of course, they dialed it right back immediately as soon as they realized, oh, wait, this is Joe Biden. We can't slam him. Thank goodness Fox News put a montage together for you to see. Take a look.
Whether you say it in jest or not, no one should qualify who's going to be black or anything else. I think that is inappropriate.
I found that, that's a cringe-inducing thing to say.
It could have been spoken differently.
They were unfortunate, unnecessary, and I think the former vice president, as he acknowledged, has to be more careful.
This is not the first time he has basically shown how insensitive he can be.
The level of hubris it takes for a white man, an old white man, or any white person to even in jest, say that he can determine who is black and who isn't is clearly outlandish.
Now, the media and many that are commentating on this story should be intellectually honest about what Joe Biden just did. What Biden said and his comments were more than just racist comments. They were racist stereotyping of African Americans and attacking African Americans if they didn't do what Joe Biden said they had to do. Well, coming from an old white guy, that is racist. Now, he said this, of course, off the cuff, as though he actually believed it. Well, because guess what? He actually does. And he tried to play it off as, oh, it was just a back and forth. Well, now Biden has tried to backtrack on this. He reportedly told black business leaders on a call Friday afternoon that, quote, shouldn't have been such a wise guy. I shouldn't have been so cavalier. Now, his campaign also said the remarks were made in jest. Biden's Friday remark was not the first time the Democratic presumptive nominee stumbled into controversy over his racial comments. During the primary, Biden was taken to task by fellow Democrats over his past opposition to federal busing, school integration policies, and his support of the 1994 crime bill that at one point he claimed was one of his biggest accomplishments. Of course, the mainstream media has already forgiven him for those things. In fact, they are also claiming that he's done enough to receive, quote, forgiveness. Take a look at what they've been saying in another montage we wanted you to see.
I'm a little revved up, okay, because this is a distraction. Vice President Biden spoke to his comments on the Breakfast Club. He apologized, he clarified, he said he shouldn't have been so cavalier, but we need to move on and talk about the issues and what's really at stake here.
The vice president shouldn't have said it. He apologized for it. But I really think the gall and the nerve of President Trump.
I believe that Joe Biden was incorrect in saying the statement, you ain't black. But I also believe that his apology was sufficient.
That apology was given swiftly. He was saying, I'm sorry, I was being too cavalier. I apologize.
To his credit, Joe Biden recognized within minutes that he had gotten carried away.
I think he has apologized, and he should have apologized. It was like, one of those jokes that just falls flat.
It's almost the end of the interview, and you need to understand the context.
Biden made an error. He apologized for it, and just move on. I mean, we can obsess on this, but this is, in the scheme of things, this is not going to amount to diddly squat.
Now, I want you to imagine for a moment if any Republican presidential candidate or president would have said something like this while running for election or re-election. John McCain, Mitt Romney, Ronald Reagan, George Bush, they would have never have been able to survive these comments. So why is the left, why is the media so easy to look the other way and let this slide? I'll tell you exactly why. Because it's Joe Biden. It's their only hope to beat Trump. And of course, they have to let it slide because it is their candidate. So if they are not going to hold Joe Biden accountable, if the leaders of the Democratic Party are not going to hold him accountable, and if the mainstream media is obviously not up for the task of just reporting what actually was said, then it is our job to hold Joe Biden accountable in November. Remember, ultimately, we have to say so. We get to make the decision of who becomes the president of the United States of America. And when comments like this are made by any elected official, it is our job to hold them accountable, especially come November. This past week was one of the biggest weeks in AMAC history. AMAC was present at the White House when Donald Trump announced his new changes to the Medicare Part D program, which will significantly lower the out-of-pocket expense for insulin. Now, I want you to hear this from the president's announcement at the Rose Garden.
Welcome to the Rose Garden as we take powerful action to lower health care costs for America's seniors. Today, I'm proud to announce that we have reached a breakthrough agreement to dramatically slash the out-of-pocket cost of insulin. You know what's happened to insulin over the years, right? Through the roof. Insulin, so many people, so necessary. For hundreds and thousands of seniors enrolled in Medicare, that's a big deal. Participating plans will cap cost at just $35 a month per type of insulin, and some plans may offer it free.
Now, it's important, especially for AMAC members, to understand that 1 in every 3 seniors on Medicare has diabetes, and over 3.3 million beneficiaries use at least one type of insulin. Now, the president promised his support for American seniors, for Medicare, and for Social Security, alongside his comments on the new update to Medicare Part D. Now, we at AMAC are proud to see these moves made by Donald Trump. We even had a testimonial from one of our own AMAC members that played during this announcement by the president in the Rose Garden at the White House. Again, we are so proud of our AMAC members for being a part of this massive and historic announcement. Take a look.
Hi, my name's Alan Arnfield. I live in the Hudson Valley in New York. I'm 68 years old and I rely on Medicare Part D. I've been a diabetic for over 10 years. And during that time, I've watched insulin prices rise dramatically. I pay $400 a month now for insulin. I appreciate President Trump putting a policy in place that will help people like myself for the future as far as insulin products. Thank you.
AMAC has done incredible work year after year after year for seniors, and some battles take longer than others to have a victory. But this is a victory we're celebrating. It is affecting almost all of our members if you are on Medicare, and especially Medicare Part D. Joining me now to talk about this victory at the White House, Andy Mangione. He is the Senior Vice President for AMAC Action. Andy, there are so many battles that AMAC is fighting on behalf of our members, and sometimes these battles take years. And then when you have success and a victory like we saw at the White House this week, it is nothing short of incredible for our members. Tell everyone what we were able to accomplish and what happened while AMAC was at the White House.
Be happy to. Yesterday, President Trump invited AMAC to the Rose Garden for a major announcement regarding a policy change for Medicare Part D. But let me set this up for you, Ben. We have been advocating for lower out-of-pocket expenses for our members, particularly our Medicare members, those people, those beneficiaries who use Part D for their outpatient prescription drugs. The people enter the donut hole. We hear from them all the time how they struggle to pay for the medications. This particular medication, insulin, is the drug that this policy change affects. So let's go back to yesterday, which was Tuesday, May 26th, at the White House, at the Rose Garden on a beautiful afternoon. AMAC Action President Bob Carlstrom was present when the president announced a significant policy change that will lower the out-of-pocket expense for insulin, for a variety of insulins, to no more than $35 a month. This is a huge deal for people who take insulin. We were hearing stories from AMAC members about them rationing their insulin, about them reusing supplies like needles in order to stretch their budget to take this life-saving medication. Then we heard stories about people entering the donut hole and seeing that cost just skyrocket for out-of-pocket. So this is a big deal.
This is one of those things that takes so long, and it takes longer than many people believe it should to get these corrections and these needs for people clearly. And it's an uphill battle. One of the best parts about working with this administration, the Donald Trump administration, is if they hear of a problem, they are willing to listen, and then they hate government in a sense. And they're like, well, let's get this done. Let's do it now. And that's literally what happened yesterday at the White House, was the idea that, okay, we know there's a need. We know there's a problem. We know there needs to be reform. By golly, we're going to do it. And the president's committed to doing this. And this is something for seniors that is the difference between quality care and having, as you said, to ration it. And even one of the AMAC members, which I think is so great, their story was actually shown at the White House and Rose Garden for the world to see the struggle of our members and what they're dealing with as a senior.
Absolutely, Ben. We had a member, Alan Arnfield, who has given us permission to use his name and his story. He's from the Hudson Valley, and he's been a diabetic for many, many years. And he struggles to pay for his insulin. And he related that experience paying for his insulin via video, because we're still in the pandemic situation, via video that was played during this announcement from the Rose Garden. I spoke with Alan. So Fox News carried this live. He's getting a little bit of exposure here, and he's happy that his message got out. What's important when you mentioned the president is that the president is listening to seniors. He hasn't been president that long, and his solution for this particular policy change is a private-public partnership among Medicare carriers like Humana and other Medicare carriers and insulin makers. So this is a classic public-private partnership that the president reached out to drastically lower out-of-pocket expenses for insulin for people who use it.
You know, this is one of those success stories, and I encourage our members to realize how important it is to not only tell AMAC what your needs are and where there are, walls that have been put up by the government and things that are not working, and having AMAC then take these stories and advocate on your behalf. This is a perfect example of that. You have an AMAC member who says, I need help, and AMAC not only gets the help, but we have an entire law that has changed, and the story that is shared at the White House and the Rose Garden, live on TV, as you put it, on Fox News Channel and others. And this is the type of work that AMAC is doing for their members, not just on this issue, on multiple issues every day. And we may not always be telling you every day what we're doing on these certain things, right? Because it is an uphill battle. But when we have a success like this, it will affect so many of our members. It's something that we should celebrate, and it's a reminder, I say to our members, how important your membership is, but not just that, how important it is for you to communicate with AMAC on issues that are affecting you, that the government can make a difference and change.
When we spoke with our members and asked them to send us stories about insulin, are they struggling to pay for it? Just share your insulin story. We received over 100 stories, okay, within 15 hours.
Yeah.
And we didn't ask the entire membership. We just targeted some groups and made the ask. So our members are willing to share their stories, and we want them to know that we hear them and we forward them to the to the highest levels of government. In this case, the president. And Alan Arnfield was able to share that important story, and it really made a difference.
Well, access is everything, and AMAC has gotten incredible access to White House, to different people in the government, and we are being able to really use this to have change for our members. I really, Andy, appreciate you coming on. This is certainly one of those moments that is exciting for all the people at AMAC that work so hard to represent more than 2 million AMAC members. And like I said, if you are a member and there is an issue like this that you need to bring to our attention, that is why we have this back and forth, and it's so important.
You bet, Ben. The bigger we get, the louder we get, the more people pay attention to us. We appreciate your help with that effort.
Andy, I appreciate it. Congratulations. Huge success for AMAC and AMAC Action. And for people, all these resources, the story is up at AMAC on the website as well. And you can see a lot of this also on our Facebook page. So check it out there as well. But again, thanks for joining us. Congratulations. Big victory for our members. And I know it's something that you guys have been working so hard on.
Thank you, Ben. My pleasure.
Once again, I want to say thank you to AMAC Action and the entire team that was helping represent you in Washington, at the White House, in the Rose Garden for this historic announcement. This is the hard work of the people at AMAC on your behalf, and when we have a victory like this, we want to make sure they know that we are all thankful for their hard work and dedication. That's it for this edition of your AMAC Weekly News. A quick reminder, if you haven't joined AMAC or renewed your membership, make sure you do it now. You'll continue to receive the show and access to our incredible member benefits as well as the AMAC magazine. But most importantly, just like we saw this week, AMAC represents you and more than 2 million other conservatives on Capitol Hill so that your voice is heard. I'm Ben Ferguson, and I'll see you back next week for our next episode.